dive right into it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a non-added sugar coated. Okay. And I had to phrase it that way because I know sometimes people talk about not sugarcoating the truth or facts. But I wanted to take it a step further and saying we don't have no added sugar coating around here. But when it comes to common diseases, and so I really want to share some information with you because I want you to be well informed as well as make decisions when it comes to your health. And so for probably about a couple of weeks, even last week, I talked a little bit about health and just kind of doing some research myself, even reading through different books and research articles. There have been a lot of things that I've seen, as well as things that continue to work, I guess, parallel in such a way. And when I look at data, it helps me to one kind of have a better idea of trends and even understand how are we really moving as a nation. And so one thing that I realized is just seeing how people continue to live and just have their certain habits, whether it's getting snacks here and there or just having comfort food, posting pictures on social media saying, hey, we're out at this place or eating this or that, and not really improving their, um, not really improving certain things. Okay. And I look at data because it generally tells you something that a lot of people just won't see, or even most people wouldn't know unless they actually took a look at it. And one of the things that I would actually do is share this data with you so you can actually see that I'm not making it up. But pretty much when it comes to common diseases, so when you think about common diseases in the US, it can be anywhere from cancer to heart disease to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. The list goes on and on with diseases. And one thing that I learned is that, excuse me, when it comes down to a lot of these diseases, and I know that some people may not really believe it, but it's actually fairly true, or pretty true, I should say that. And the reason why I say it's fairly true is because I know that there are also a combination of other things. But when it comes to preventing these types of common diseases, having an improved nutrition and physical fitness has been shown to be key players when it comes to mitigating or even preventing most of these common diseases, including cancer. And so the reason, again, why I talked about these are fairly true is because I also know that there are other things such as your mental health, your emotional health, social health, which I like to classify in terms of lifestyle, or they could also be habits. But these things can also play a role because they can affect your um, physiological makeup and even your psychological makeup. Okay. And so when it comes down to this, and again, I want to share some data with you because I do want you to see that I'm not making this up. And I was looking at a couple of pieces of data, so bear with me. But I really want you to see this because it kind of points to what I have been sharing with you. And so as I pull this up, let's see. Uh-oh. Let's see. Okay. So as I pull this up, I want you to really see this because as we get down to some of this data, you'll actually see that I'm not making this up. Okay. So let's see. Let's see. Is this the one? All right. There we go. So when it comes down to hide. Oh, click on the wrong one. All right. So when it comes down to it, and I'm on the cdc.gov. So as you can see it up here, cdc.gov. So pretty much this is based on statistics from 2021. Yes, 2021. So 2022 hasn't been listed yet. Not sure when it actually will. Could be mid-year, but just take a look at this. So pretty much for every, when you think about the 100,000 population, there are about 1,000 deaths. Okay, and that roughly equates to about 1% if you did it by every 100 individuals. But as we look at the number of deaths for leading causes of deaths, look at this: heart disease, cancer. I just mentioned those. Of course, COVID-19, and of course, accidents, but stroke, okay? Chronic lower respiratory diseases. These can also be linked to nutrition as well as fitness. Alzheimer's disease, that's also included. Diabetes, I mentioned that too. Chronic liver disease and cirrhosis. So when it comes to chronic diseases, these are included. Okay. Nephritis, nephrotic syndrome, nephrosis. Okay. Again, these are the leading causes of deaths. And look at the top two. Okay, close to 700,000 deaths. That's a little bit. 700,000 deaths. That's like 300,000 away from being a million, and we're not far away from that. I think probably within the next 5 years that could reach there. I know that from some recent data that I looked at, the CDC estimated that could be an increase of about 25% to 33%. And so when we think about this number, that would actually put most of these leading causes of deaths near that number. Cancer is at 600 and 5,000. Okay. So when you combine both of these, you get like 1.3 million, ideally. And so when it comes to these leading causes of death, a lot of people again don't realize that these can be prevented by improving your nutrition. When I talk about nutrition, I'm talking about really having a whole foods diet. Now I know some people may even go further to say you need to have a mainly vegan diet or vegetarian diet. And the reason why I don't, put a label on that is because I know for me, yes, it's important to have data and understand, okay, what's in our food, but I also realize that I shouldn't be fearful of the foods that I eat, especially if I also know that I've been doing my research and there are foods that, again, I enjoy, but I also know that they are nutritious for my body. That's where that spiritual component for me comes in, where I pray, ask God for insight in terms of, okay, should I continue with consuming this? Because I also realize that I can go by data, but many people who are very heavy on data can live on data and look at the data as the source of what they should be eating. And I know that God doesn't want us to live that way, because in a way we would be idolizing data in terms of, okay, what does the data look like? As well as knowing that death can come in different forms. And I don't want to scare you with that. But what I am saying is that when it comes to these prevention methods, most people don't take it seriously. And one thing I also wanted you to look at is just take a look at this, because one thing you may not realize is that as the number of deaths increase, so when you look at each one of those categories, they increase over the next year to 5 years. Okay. If there's like a 10% increase in those deaths, what does that say about the healthcare industry? Well, as we looked at 2020 through 2021, this is some of the data. And this was from 2009 to 2019. And again, I don't make this up. So you can see that there's a huge jump, okay, from 26.58 billion to 34.53 billion, okay? It's a huge jump, okay? And again, this is, let's say it's 30% higher, 30%, okay? So while more people are dying, more people are making money. Okay, I want you to think about that for a minute. While the death rates are increasing, you have more people that are making money. And I want you to realize that what I'm doing, I'm also, in a way, I wouldn't say I'm part of the healthcare industry, but what I'm doing, I'm also helping you to, avoid being a part of the traditional healthcare system, hospitals. Okay. And again, I don't have nothing with those, but I will tell you that they are not providing you the care that most people would think that they are, especially for what you are paying for them. Okay. So you can take a look at all of these. I think this was national healthcare expenditures. This is personal healthcare expenditures. So look at this, from 22.49 billion to 29.37 billion within a 10-year span. So you can see that this, I want to say, increased from about, say, 31%, if that's correct, 31%. And then these are just charts, just kind of showing you from, the different healthcare expenditures. But again, when it comes to, the spending costs, as I always talk about, when it comes to prescription drugs, you see that they take up a good chunk of an individual's spending, okay, especially when it comes to healthcare. Where does the majority part go towards? Hospital care. That's not surprising to me, because when you think about it, I look at the hospital care as pretty much real estate. If you think about staying in a hotel or even an Airbnb, this hospital care, you are pretty much paying anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe even 10 times as much compared to if you were staying in a weekend stay at an Airbnb or hotel stay. And that's because the beds cost, the room costs, to use their equipment, it costs. And so when you think about, the next time you try to have a burger or a pizza or something, or you want to have fun time with the family, there are ways to do it healthier, I will say. Instead of having sweets, you could have you fruit. Okay. Fruit is good. It's full of nutrients. That is one thing that we're pretty much lacking is a lot of fruit. And I wanted to go back to something that I had saw, and I thought it was quite neat actually. But when it comes to the life expectancy, this doesn't have much to do with anything. But I noticed that just for this year, because I know these statistics haven't taken into account the last 10 years, but at least for 2021, it pretty much averaged that both sexes, between males and females, from the date of birth, lived up to 76.4 years, I want to say. So life expectancy at birth was 76.4 years. Psalms 90 verse 10 actually says this, and it's not too surprising. It says, the days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80 years. And we know that there are some people who actually live past 80. Now, a person may say, is the Bible false? No, it's not false. But this is pretty much the Bible saying the days of our lives, which means that it's taken into account an average. And even in the Bible, it talks about individuals who live past 80 years. Early, early on in the Bible, in Genesis, there were people who lived 300, 400 years, 900 years. And, today, because of sin, we know that sin, that leads to death, it has brought this number down to 70 years. And again, it talks about reason of strength, 80 years. But it was interesting to me because when I looked at this data, it actually shows that these numbers actually fall within that 7 to 80 year range. Okay. But going back to the fact at hand is that, when it comes to a lot of these diseases, and the reason why I showed you this data from the CDC is because most people don't see this, and they continue to think, okay, I just see food, I see pizza on the table. But what they also don't see is I see that if I eat this, that I could be within the next 24 hours, I could be in a hospital bed or in the ICU, and I could be in the emergency care unit and have family members crying over me or worried because they don't know what's going to happen to me, or even to another family member who eats something or is not physically active. And so this data is just not here just to look good, but I really want you to think about this, because I don't think we really take our health seriously. Most people don't. And not to talk about anybody, but I am just going to say it. That's why you see many people who are struggling with their weight. And what I mean by struggling is you actually have people who are carrying tons of weight on them that they shouldn't be carrying in the first place. And again, that's not me talking about them, but that is coming from love. Like the Lord never intended us to put on more weight for us to struggle and for it to bear down on our joints. Okay. That is not our design. And besides, we are going contrary to what God has called us to do. If we are not able to walk in good health, how can we really help the world? How can we really preach the gospel effective as the Bible has called us to do? How can we even motivate the young individuals if they see us not really doing what we should be doing? And so I want you to really think about that, especially if you say you've been struggling with something or you've gotten into this mindset where eating right, being physically active is not for you because you heard someone said on social media or someone said that, was to be a joke, but in actuality, they were planting that seed so that you wouldn't have to do anything. But the reality is that this data continues to go up. And when you look back at the last couple of years, you will see that there's a trend that the data starts to increase and increase steady and steady and steadier. However, it's not really talked about a lot. Like you can see many things on the news, but when it comes to data on heart disease, I know people talk about cancer and having a cure, but the cure is just treating yourself right. Okay. Get in the nutrients that you need. In fact, when you really start to eat a whole foods diet, and again, I can't make you do anything, but I am telling you that as a nation, we are malnourished, which means people are eating more and more junk food, heavier food, a lot of foods that are very savory, but not a lot of foods that are nutritious, which again comes back to fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts. These have more nutrients than what you will actually see on the table, and they actually do many more functions than you can imagine when they are ingested or digested in your body, protecting your DNA, your genes, helping you to digest your food easily without your stomach being upset all the time, even helping your brain, your neurotransmitters in your brain operate well when you are consuming these foods that are high in nutrients versus being nutrient empty, okay, or calorie dense, I should say. And so it's important to really consider this. And I know I can go on and on, but I just wanted to share this information with you because growing up, I've seen it many times where a person had a diagnosis, and that diagnosis, most of the time, pretty much ended with their life. Okay, okay. And so when it comes down to it, yes, cancer sucks. Yes, type 2 diabetes sucks. All of these diseases suck. You want to know why? Because Jesus never even called us to have these diseases. Of course, we will have tribulation in the world. And again, I'm not saying that there is perfect ways to avoid, any of these. But however, if we can't even take the steps or even the things that God has given to us and use them for our advantage, how can we really blame it on someone else? Or, why should we want, and I want you to really understand where I'm coming from. We can have people pray for us. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. But we also have to take responsibility. We have to take responsibility and not look at the doctor, look at anyone else for what we are not doing, which is making wise choices when it comes to our nutrition. The next time you put something in your mouth, think about it. Is it really nutritious? Is it helping me long term? Am I just going to talk about, what, I'm going to eat better, but not do anything? And then just risk having a diagnosis, risk having something develop in me? No. Am I going to just sit around and not really get my body moving? Am I going to just continue with my old train of thought? Or am I really going to stand up and say, you know what? let me really just take control in terms of my nutrition. Let me get some help. Okay. There's nothing wrong with help. Help is very important. Okay. And when you have people that can support you and can help you, in a way, you can actually do much more than you even thought. So I'm just going to leave it at there. But I do want you to realize that this is important, that we really take this matter seriously when it comes to our health. So again, when it comes to these common diseases, they can actually be prevented or even avoided by really improving our nutrition, understanding the nutrients that we need, okay? The nutrients that we need, okay? Making the plan to get those nutrients, whatever the cost is, because a person may say, well, groceries cost too much, but in a way they don't. But if you want to go with that notion of groceries cost too much, well, tell me, how much would it cost to treat your disease or whatever disease you would be diagnosed with? The cost for the anesthesia to stay in the hospital, okay? You do the math on that, you tell me, and then you do the math on how much it would require you to get the groceries that you need for your health. And you can see that there is a big difference, okay? Even if you were to do all of the hospital care services, you still have fees. And if you don't pay that lump sum off, there are loans. And so, again, I'm not saying that the hospital is useless, but I am saying that the healthcare system is not designed with your best needs in mind. I can say that for a fact. And that's why I'm here to help you by sharing this information with you so you can really understand, okay, this is not a joke. Let me really take this seriously. So if you really enjoyed this, make sure that you give us a like, add a comment. And again, I know that this may have been pretty deep, but again, like I said, this is no added sugar. Okay. And I don't want to sugarcoat this for you. I want to give it to you straight up because this is very serious when it comes to a lot of these diseases. More people, even today, as I speak, are dying and are continuing to die because matters like these aren't taken seriously. Number one, by the individuals who are experiencing these. Number two, there's lack of support from most of the individuals. And three, by the time that a person goes through the process or even knowing what they have, they could be in the latter stages of that disease getting very aggressive. And so sharing this information with you so you do not fall into that cycle, that you can say, you know what, hey, it stops today. Okay. Don't put it off for next week. Start today by really taking advantage of your nutrition, looking at resources, even, just getting to moving, and getting involved with your local gym or even at home, doing a couple of sit-ups, push-ups, really making a plan to say, you know what, if I want to see my kids, want to see just a lot of things in the future, I can't just, hope that that's going to happen. I have to actually do my part. Okay. So I want you to think about that and really, make sure that you are really doing what you need to do. So if you really enjoy this, make sure that you follow our content. Check our website out at robody.org. There we can see some of the amazing content that we're doing. If you happen to get an error message clicking on anything else, technician is working on it. So want you to stay there with me, check out the website, support us. We love your feedback and make sure you keep up with us. We enjoy sharing this information with you and we will continue to share it with you as long as we are active. So hope that you continue to support us. And until next time, I hope that you enjoy your evening, your day, wherever you are, and be blessed, family.